Hello, I'm Dr. McClain. Today I want to talk to you about Hashimoto's thyroiditis. What is it? Do you possibly have it? What causes it? And most importantly, what you can do about it. So Hashimoto's thyroiditis is a form of hypothyroidism. So you have hypo is less than, hyper is more than or sped up. So hypo in this case is a slowed down thyroid function. Now, if you have hypothyroidism or if you've been diagnosed with that, the research shows 90 to 97%, at least one study I looked at, 90 to 97% of the cases are caused by an autoimmune disease, meaning it is Hashimoto's versus just hypothyroidism. So what is an autoimmune disorder? And we'll come back to Hashimoto's here in just a second. So an autoimmune disorder is a group of disorders. Some people say there's more than 100, some people say there's more than 200. What that means is your immune system, for various different reasons, is attacking your own tissue. So we have things like lupus, and in this case Hashimoto's is attacking your own thyroid, causing it to be inflamed, and that's the itis portion. So when you add itis at the end of anything, like arthritis for example, is an inflamed joint or inflammation of. In this case, thyroiditis is inflammation of the thyroid, a gland that has a big input into our metabolism. So if you have a hypothyroidism, there's a very good chance that you have an autoimmune disorder, an autoimmune component of that, meaning your immune system is attacking your own immune system, is attacking your own thyroid. So what are the common symptoms that go along with this? Well, you can have cold hands and cold feet are real common. Being tired or fatigued, feeling like you have to sleep all the time. Gaining weight is usually a big indicator, and the inability to lose weight. Sometimes you can get some tingling or paresthesia. The challenge with autoimmune disorders is they can mimic a lot of other diseases, and because they're so wide-ranging, the symptoms can really vary a lot from person to person. Thinning hair is also a common one with hypothyroidism as well. So why would this happen? Why would your own immune system attack yourself? Well, there's many different causes. Let me go through a couple different causes, and then we'll bring it back full circle to see why this might be happening, and then to really understand how to handle it, how to approach it, how to get your body to reverse it potentially, at least to heal and function better. So there can be a lot of different causes. The two major causes that seem to be combination or real common in almost all autoimmune disorders are stress and gut issues, or what's called leaky gut. So let's talk about stress first. One research article I looked at said that over 80% of the time, the people that developed an autoimmune disorder talk about having a large stressor right before they developed the disease. So that triggered that disease. So a divorce, a financial stress like a bankruptcy, or maybe they're going through midterms or finals in their doctorate work or their college work, or it can be a physical stress like an injury, like you break a leg or something like that. So there's some big stressors now. So why would that cause an autoimmune response? Well, there's a couple different things with this. Let's talk about first, when we have a big stressor, remember your body is designed to deal with that. It's called fight or flight. And this is designed for short term, not long term. So I'm just going to use the example of a bear. You see a bear, your body releases stress hormones, tells your brain, hey, this is dangerous. Your body releases these stress hormones to get your body to either fight or flight, try to outrun that bear. So that's great for the short term to deal with that stressful situation. It's not meant for long term. So what that means is when we create these stress hormones because of that emotional stress or whatever stress it was, our body's going to divert energy away from our daily activities and get ready for, it's going to put all the energy into just getting to this next fight, so to speak, because it's not concerned, your brain nervous system is not concerned about long-term health. It just needs to get to the next couple of minutes. So it's going to shut down things like your immune system. It's going to suppress that. It's going to take energy away from your immune system and shuttle that toward your heart, your lungs, and your muscles. So again, you can fight or flight. So that's great, again, for short term. The problem is today, we do so many things that can trigger this stress response. We get stressed about gas prices, political situations, and are we going to have enough money to pay our rent or our mortgage next month, or dealing with stress at the office or your job or your business. And so we start to develop these chronic long-term stresses. So what happens is the immune system is perpetually depressed or stressed and release things like cortisol. Well, cortisol moves amino acids and antibodies out of our lymph tissue, which is part of our immune system, to again shunt that to get more energy to fight or flight. Again, if you do that perpetually over time, you atrophy or weaken the immune system and the immune tissue. Just like if you don't work a muscle, you're going to weaken it, while the immune system can only handle so much stress, so it gets weakened. So now it's more likely to be, you're more likely to be overtaken by a bacterial or a viral infection. So for many different reasons, this can cause your immune system to get confused, and it starts to attack different tissues. Again, in this case, the thyroid if it's Hashimoto's. Okay, so coming back to that in here just a second. Now, the second thing that can happen, or big issue, is something called leaky gut. And this is going to be more and more common, unfortunately, in our culture for a lot of different reasons. So the best way to look at it is if you imagine you have your stomach or your gut lining, that's the tube that runs from your mouth down to your anus. And just think of that like a hose, for example. And it's our one separation from the outside world and our inside world, our internal environment. And we have something in our body, our nervous system tries to maintain homeostasis, okay? Just like your thermostat in your house. If it gets cold, it kicks on the heater to bring the temperature up. If it gets hot, it kicks on the air conditioning to bring that temperature. So if you set the thermostat, let's say 70 degrees, it's gonna try to hold it right at 70 degrees. Well, in our body, we have all these different things. We have temperature, we have blood pressure, we have immune system, we have all these different things that we've got to regulate, and your body tries to remain at this homeostatic set point. Well, one of those biggest things is protecting us from outside invaders, bacterial, viral things, chemicals and toxins in our environment. So we have this, so go back to this tube, this hose, so to speak, and it has these tiny, tiny little gaps that allow certain things to pass from your intestines, from your gut, or the gut tube, the GI tract, into our bloodstream the way that it's supposed to. But what happens, we can do a lot of different things that can damage these junctions, these gap junctions. Toxins, stress directly affects the gut. And what happens is these gaps get too big, and now things that are not supposed to pass through, food particles, invaders, bacteria, pathogens, toxins, pass into our bloodstream, and our immune system starts to attack those things, which is good, but it can basically over-respond. It gets confused, and again, this is where we're going to start to attack your thyroid or other tissues, which creates this autoimmune disorder. So those are and there's a lot of different factors here. This is the one challenge with autoimmune disorders, it's multifactorial. Okay? Similar to cancer. So does smoking cause cancer? Yes. But does everybody that smoke get cancer? No. Does some people that never smoke get lung cancer in this case? Lung cancer, yes. So it's multifactorial. I could eat gluten all day long and maybe it's not going to affect me at all, but you eat gluten and you develop leaky gut and it leads to an autoimmune disorder. So is that fair? No. But that's the way that our bodies work. So you've got to figure out, you've got to look at it from a multifactorial viewpoint. So there's a lot of different causes, but those are the two biggest things that I see very common to all autoimmune disorders is leaky gut and stress. Does it mean you're always going to have those two things? No, but they're pretty common. So if we attack those two things first, we don't have a very good chance of healing, okay? So now let's take it back full circle. The one thing that I see missing, or one of the biggest missing links that I see when I look at the approach of people, how they're trying to heal these things, is we look at the immune system as the enemy, or that the immune system's doing something wrong. So you do have to recognize the fact at, maybe I can't say 100% of the time, but the vast, vast majority of the time, if not 100% of the time, the immune system's doing exactly what it is supposed to do, right? So for example, if I called you on my cell phone and I gave you directions to my house, but the signal got broke up a little bit and you missed a couple of things I said, and you ended up at the wrong address, it wasn't anything wrong with the phone. The communication just got disrupted somewhere between there. So you wouldn't say, geez, we need to throw away your phone, it's giving bad directions. No, the directions went out fine. They got interfered somewhere in the process. So it's the same thing with the immune system. The immune system is doing exactly what it's supposed to do, maybe even too well in this case. So it's not the immune system, it's these bacteria or pathogens or toxins or whatever we did to ourselves that cause this disruption. Now, nobody tries to get an autoimmune disorder. You're not a bad person if you've got an autoimmune disorder. You don't deserve that. I'm not saying that. But the point is, we did something, whether it was inadvertently, obviously it's inadvertently a lot of the times, something to cause it. A lot of times it's out of our control. You got exposed to a toxin you weren't even aware of, caused leaky gut, and then led to this Hashimoto's or whatever autoimmune disorder you might be dealing with. But I want you to think from that perspective that your body's doing the right thing for that situation, meaning a lot of times the approach is to take an immune suppressing drug to try to suppress the immune system. Well, the immune system's probably already been suppressed, or at least, again, confused that create this issue. So maybe short term, but not long term. It's not going to be a good solution to the health of your body in most cases. Or we'll do corticosteroids, cortisol drugs, or drugs that are mimicking cortisol in our body. They're supposed to be anti-inflammatory, trying to bring the inflammation down. But again, you didn't get high inflammation in the first place because you had a lack of drugs in your body. So I'm not saying that I've got all the solutions by any means, but you want to do everything that you can to work with your body. So even if you are going to take these drugs, look at, okay, what can I do to remove anything that might be interfering with it? Even if it didn't maybe cause it in the first place. Maybe you don't think it was necessarily high stress, but anything you can do to lower your stress levels right now are going to help you heal better and have a better situation. Even if you don't think it was diet related or toxin related, anything that you can do now to minimize the exposure to toxins and bad foods going into your body are going to improve things. So you want to approach it from that aspect and think about the body. I just like to use the example of somebody, like a circus performer that's spinning the plates. Have you ever seen that before? They've got plates and they're spinning 5, 6, 8, 10 plates. Well, our body's kind of like that. Our body's got all these different adjustments that it's doing: blood pressure, heart rate, immune system, and it's doing all these different things. And if you have one of those areas go off a little bit, then the other area is going to compensate. So if we go in with a drug, we try to manipulate the thyroid or we try to manipulate the immune system, your body's going to have to compensate in other areas. And long term, it's going to create more upset than it is going to create balance. So you want to really just approach it from the holistic aspect and understand that your body's got an amazing, amazing inborn wisdom. It knows way more than we can consciously think. It's got this inborn wisdom. So anything we can do to work with that versus against that. So I'll link some other videos here in the description, talk about more on some actual approaches that you can do to heal autoimmune disorders in general, and then specifically leaky gut and thyroid problems. So please comment here if you have any questions or comments. I'd love to try to address those for you and answer questions that you might have along those lines. If you like this information, please subscribe to my page as well. I'll be having more videos like this coming in the future.